Hello, this is Dr. Econ back again with another video on the housing market today. Now, a lot of the other YouTubers will say that the housing market is crashing. It's going to go down. They don't really share with you the numbers and the facts and data behind it. But the housing market is, in fact, crashing, and now is probably not the time to buy a house if you can hold off. Simply the fact that house prices are going to be tumbling should give an indication that if you can wait, you can buy a house much less expensive than you can now. So stay tuned for the video. So what we want to do today is talk about the housing market and what's happening. I have 7 different categories here that show the housing market is struggling, very much having trouble. Building permits are falling, housing starts are falling, new home sales are falling, existing home sales are falling, pending home sales are falling, total home inventory is also falling, and the Case-Shiller index is beginning to show a decrease in prices in the urban areas. Now, you're catching the theme here. Pretty much every indicator that we have is going south. And what I want to do is show you that data and show you how dramatically the housing market is beginning to fall apart. So if we look at permits, we go back to March of 2022 till now, till January of 2023, and we see 550,000 drop from that time frame. So 550,000 less, and today there's only 1.339 million, which means that it's almost dropped in by 40% or so. So what you're seeing is a dramatic drop in permits. Now, that means the permits are at the beginning of the sales cycle. So they are what they call a leading indicator. In other words, you see a drop in permits before you'll see a drop in new home sales, for example, because permits that were created a year and a half ago are now being sold as new homes. But even the ending, that lagging indicator of new home sales, is falling as well. And we'll see that here coming up. So let's look now. Let's look at housing starts. Now, housing starts are when they start building a house after they get their permits. It's down 496,000 from April of 2022. Notice the numbers for building permits were in March. Now the numbers for building starts start in April, and they've dropped 496,000 from that point to January. So 496,000, and there's only 1,309,000 that were started in the month of January. So you can see the drop has been very dramatic. And it's that same, 35 to 40% drop that we saw in the building permits. So let's follow this train a little farther along. Now we get to the new home sales. And you see it is a lagging indicator because there's inventory that's being finished up, that permits were purchased before the decline started. So it's a little bit less of a drop. But from January 2022 till today, you've got a drop of 115,000, and there's only 616,000 that were sold in the month of, it looks like, December of 2022. So you're in a situation where you're watching these indicators, permits to new home starts to new home sales, continuing to draw down. Now, what'll happen is as permits recover, you'll see starts recover, but you'll see the lagging indicator of new home sales recovering about a year later. And so we've got this flow of inventory, starting to be built and then finally being built and sold that has to flush through the building cycle. Now, so, this is the story on new builds. So let's look at the story on existing homes, because the existing home sales are dropping pretty rapidly as well. So you see that from February of 2022 through the time of January 2023, we have 1,920,000 homes less being sold year over year from that time. So you've got 1,920,000 and only 4 million in January 2023 were sold. You have nearly half, basically 2 million versus 4 million being sold. And that's a drop by a full third from the initial figure at around 6,000 units that were sold then. So existing home sales are beginning to fall very, very quickly. So what about pending home sales? Now, these are the homes that are currently under contract, okay? You'd expect that existing home sales dropping, those are the finalized sales. We've got pending home sales, and pending home sales counts the number that are currently under contract. And they have been dropping for the last 12 months straight. And year over year for the December figure, December 2021 to December 2022 is down almost 34%. And months previous to that have been down almost 37 and 37%, respectively. So October through December, the numbers have been dramatically flowing to the southward side there. Pending home sales becomes another one of those little bit of a lagging indicator as well. So let's go look at the inventory. Now, what you've got is, in order to sell a home, you have to have inventory to sell. In order to have a pending home sale, of course, you have to have homes that can get under contract, which means they're driven a lot by the inventory for sale. Well, what happens when an inventory or houses available to purchase drops dramatically? What we've seen from July of 2022, now this is much more recent. July of 2022, people are beginning to realize that the housing market is falling apart. They're not going to get the premiums for their houses that they were getting over the last couple of years, as the housing market was just running up 20-25% per year. Now the housing market is beginning to cool off in the respect that maybe a whole lot less speculators. In fact, I can guarantee you there's a lot less speculators trying to flip houses, with Redfin announcing that they're getting out of the flipping market and Zillow getting out of that market as well. And of course, it flushes out all the small guys that go to these seminars that says make thousands of dollars on real estate, and they show you how to flip a home, how to buy it cheap, how to sell it high. During that inflationary market where the market was going up so fast, it was almost guaranteed that you were going to make a ton of money. Well, all those little guys are out of the market, sitting on the side, and hopefully they got their properties sold before they lost a whole lot of money on them. But the situation here now is that we've got a lot less homes on the market. A lot of that supply was taken out of the market because the demand also went down, in the respect that Redfin and Zillow and all those other folks were not buying them up just as speculation and then putting right back on the market. So there was a kind of a false inventory and supply and demand curve being pushed during that time that inflated houses quite a lot because of the extra money in the economy. So now you can see that 340,000 difference from then to now. So you can see it's down over 30% and falling quite rapidly. If you look at the December number, 1140 to 970, we'll take a look at that in January and see what those numbers look like in January. But so when we see all of these things occurring, you would naturally begin to expect that prices would have to come down as well. Because in order to increase the inventory, you've got to have enough demand. People need to be able to sell the houses. Well, the demand isn't there. And if the demand's not there, the prices have to fall in order for demand to increase. People aren't willing to pay the premiums anymore. So people aren't getting the premiums, so they're not willing to put the house up anymore for sale. So you've got a lot of supply and demand fluctuation going on here that is beginning to affect prices. And the Case-Shiller index is where I get these numbers from, and it's dropped 5.4% from June of this year to November of 2022. Now, that basically is the urban areas. So these are the areas like Chicago and Pittsburgh and St. Louis and San Francisco. It's 20 large metro areas where they examine the housing prices in those large metro areas, or urban areas they call them. Now, as a whole, the market didn't downturn in the suburban areas as much as those urban areas did. And they're starting to tend downward too, although I didn't show that particular graph here. But 5.4% down for the urban areas as people stop buying, as those urban areas stop having the Redfins and the Zillows attacking those markets and artificially inflating those prices. So basically, bottom line to this whole story is that you need to hold on to your property now, unless hopefully you're not upside down. If you want to get it sold before the market goes down any further, it's probably okay to sell your house now. But if you're basically, you're not wanting to sell into this market because you're going to keep reducing your price just to get it sold. Not like in the past where you had multiple bids on your house and you could enjoy getting, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more than what you originally asked. Now, the flip side of that is if you're not in a home right now, you might want to wait until you see the prices drop further. Hopefully you're not paying too high of rents right now to live, but if you can wait this out, prices are going to soften further. They're going to continue going down until finally the market balances itself out again. And who knows exactly when that'll happen, but if you stay tuned to this channel by subscribing, you'll be able to tell when that market balance starts to happen, because I'll analyze it on a monthly basis and keep you up to date. So if you liked what you heard in this video, hit the like button, and hopefully we'll see you again. Thanks.